So this afternoon we are going to be looking at modal verbs, and we're going to start off by explaining what modal verbs actually are, and then we will talk through how they are used in different situations. Okay, so when we are speaking about modal verbs, they are a form of auxiliary verb, and what that means is that they are a helper verb. Just like you have auxiliary verbs that help to tell the tense in sentences, so is, am, was, were, they are auxiliary verbs that help to tell the tense. Modal verbs, they are auxiliary verbs that help us express meaning within sentences. And usually they are used alongside a main verb. So generally speaking, they don't make sense on their own. And there's always a but to this. And the but is if I ask a question that uses a modal verb, so can you swim? You wouldn't need to say swim in the answer. You would just say, yes, I can. So in that sense, can doesn't have the main verb, but the main verb has already been implied within the sentence question. Okay. And unlike your regular verbs, modal verbs, they don't have suffixes applied to them. So you don't say canning or canned with the ed on the end. You don't use those suffixes to make the tenses. So whichever tense your main verb is using, the modal verb just helps to express the meaning of that main verb. Okay. Now, when we are speaking in terms of modal verb, they can help you change the meaning of the verbs in the sentence. And by that, what we're meaning is that they can show different conditions. So they could show the possibility of something happening. They can show your ability to do something. They can show whether something is a necessity or a certainty. And that is very similar to the possibility, but it's saying that it's definitely going to happen rather than it's a possible chance that it might happen. Okay. And they are also used to give permission. So they're the main uses. The other use that we're going to look at today is when they give advice. And something that we will look at in a separate session is how you use the modal verbs to express a hypothetical situation. So something that isn't actually true, but we'll speak about that in a different session. Okay, so we're going to begin by looking at the possibility. And I'm sure that you will have heard of possibility in maths. So you're talking about whether something is going to happen or not. And these modal verbs, they are showing that it might or it might not happen. And notice that I turned it into the negative, so it might not. It could or it could not. So all of these modal verbs, as well as having the positive, they also have the negative to go with them. And within the sentence, it may snow later. So there is a chance that it could snow. Okay. I might go to the beach on Thursday. I might. So there is a chance that I am going to the beach. Okay. And with these possibility ones, it is not 100% certain. There is a chance that it could happen, but it's not a certainty. Okay, and we'll speak about the modal verbs certainty a little bit later on during this session. So those are the possibility modal verbs. And then we have the modal verbs to show ability. And that's basically showing what you are able to do or what you're not able to do. And you are able to use the modal verbs I can if you're able to do it at the moment, but you can also use could if you're speaking about an ability that you used to have that you maybe no longer have. So in the past, I could speak French. My French isn't great now, but I could do it when I was younger. So that's kind of a past ability. And as well as saying I can speak French, I'm also able to use what we call a semi-modal. So I am able to speak. And this bit here, the red part, this is called either a verb phrase or a verb chain. So you need all of that red bit for the sentence to make sense. And I personally prefer to use the verb chain because I know in school you are always taught that in phrases you don't have verbs. So if I call that a verb phrase, it's kind of a bit confusing because it is going against what you've been taught. So when we're speaking modal verbs, you will need them together to make that verb chain, okay? And these particular um, sentences on the screen at the minute, they are all using the subject, verb, object structure, except for the one here that is using the subject, verb, adverb structure because the well is showing how you used to be able to dance. Okay, so in terms of sentence structure, we've got a lot of subject, verb, object, or subject, verb, adverb structures. So those are the ability. And don't get muddled between can and may because they are often sort of confused. Because if I say, can I go to the toilet? I'm asking the ability of something, whereas I should be asking the permission. And that we'll come to that in a minute with the may and how that is being used. Okay. So that's ability. Necessity and certainty. So again, when we talked about the possibility of something happening, and we talked about the fact that something either may, might, or it could, if it is definitely going to happen, we are looking at the certainty of it, okay? Or if you must do something, you're talking about the necessity of doing it. And for the necessity or certainty, we use must or will. And you might also use I have to or I need to. So those are like the semi-modals of it. And then to show certainty, you're using the will and you shall, and also you are going to. So as you don't always say going, I am be going to. I would say you are going to, or use the correct form of the verb to be before the going. Okay, so we've got our team have to win the match. So it's what they must do. It's showing that they have to win that match. Okay. If you said you need to complete your homework, it's probably what your parents say to you on an evening. Again, it's showing what you must do. And the one at the bottom, we will attend, that is showing the certainty. So that is showing that you are definitely going to the wedding. So necessity and certainty, it is very similar to the possibility, but it's going to happen. There's no chance that it won't happen. Okay. So those are the certainty and the necessity. And the next one here, so may. And like I said a few minutes ago, it's not interchangeable with can. So you're using may to ask permission. And what that means is it's what you're allowed to do. So if someone says you may sit down, they're kind of saying you're allowed to sit down. Now, in school, I hear a lot of can I go to the toilet? you're kind of showing your ability there. And I'm hoping, yes, you can go to the toilet because you are able to. If you are asking permission to go to the toilet, you should grammatically say, may I go to the toilet rather than can. Okay, so just be aware that they can't be interchanged. And just notice when it is used as a question, the verb chain is split and you have the subject in the middle of that verb chain. Okay, so all modal verbs will follow that rule. If you're asking the question, put the verb chain goes around the actual subject that is asking the question. And then you may borrow my phone is giving permission to someone to take the phone. Okay, so this may is for permission, but if you are requesting something, we have a different modal verb. So for polite requests, you are using could and would. And notice again that verb chain is split around the subject. So could you pass the water, please? So you're asking someone to do something for you. It's a polite request. And would you help me? You've got the subject is in the middle of that verb chain there. Okay, and then the last reason that we are going to look at today for the modal verbs is giving advice. So you can use the modal verbs should if you are giving someone advice. You can also use what we call the semi-modal verbs. So you ought to or you had better. Now, if you are giving them advice, you should eat healthier food. Because you're giving them advice, there's always a chance that they will probably turn around and say, I don't have to. So if you want to turn it into a certainty rather than just giving advice where they can't turn around and say, no, I'm not going to, use you must eat healthier food. Okay, so giving advice where you're just saying that it's sensible to do something, use should or ought to. But if you have that certainty and you want them to do it, use the must. And I'm sure that's something that your parents will probably be doing later on. You must complete your homework. You can't argue with them because there is that certainty about what they are wanting you to do. Okay, so let's have a look at how that translates into the sentences that I have for you. So we're looking here for the modal verb to start off with, and then we need to think, how was that modal verb being used? So I've got here, I might go to the cinema tonight. Now I've got the verb chain, I might go. Okay, and if I might go, there's also a chance that I might not go. So that is showing the possibility for this one. It's kind of saying, I might go, but also I might not go. Okay. The next one, I can swim 100 meters. Looking for my verb chain, I can swim. And that is showing what I am able to do. Okay, so I am able to swim the 100 meters. So that is my ability. Now, the next one I have got, we could see a film tomorrow. So what I'm saying is I could go and see it. There's a chance that I might do, but there's also a chance that I won't. So this one we could see, it is showing again the possibility of me going to watch the film. So again, the possibility. I'm sure the next one is something that you often hear parents saying, you must tidy your bedroom. Okay. Now, if they are saying you must do it, there's no room for arguing. They're not saying, could you do it? They're not kind of making that suggestion that it's a good idea. What they are doing, they are saying that it is a necessity. You have to do it. You don't have the chance not to. Okay, so this one here, it is being used to show necessity. Okay, and then again, it's Sunday night, so you will go to bed at 9 o'clock tonight. And my modal verb there, you will, and it's in the verb chain, will go. And there is no arguing with that because it is a certainty. Okay, so tidying the bedroom, it's a necessity that it needs to be tidied, but you will go, it is a certainty that you are going to go. Okay, now the next one, I'm noticing the split between the modal verb and the main verb within the sentence. So my modal verb could, and then could you help me with my homework? So it is making that polite request that someone is giving you some assistance with the homework. So this one here is a polite request. Now, the next one, you may ask a question. So I've got the modal verb, you may, and the main verb that is linking to is ask. So you may ask, and then because it is the may, it is asking, it is giving you permission. Okay, so you're having permission to ask that question. Then the next one that I have here, you should is my modal verb. Exercise is the main verb. That's what they should do. So you should exercise for 30 minutes. So what they are doing there in that sentence, they're giving advice. They're not saying that you have to do it. It is just a good idea. So they are offering advice that something should happen. Okay, so I will save the first half of the sheet so that I will send that through to parents once we've finished. So moving on to the bottom part of the sheet where we've got I need to sit down for a few minutes. So look in there first of all for my modal verb. So I've got the semi-modal, I need to. Okay, so need to sit. And that is showing the necessity. It's showing that I need to do it. I want have to sit down. Okay, so that one there is the necessity. And the next one that we're looking at is I am able to. Okay, and again, it is that semi-modal where you're saying I am able to. So am is part of the verb to be. So because I'm using I would say I am. If I was talking about he or she, I would say he is able to. Or if I'm talking about they, I would say they are able to. Okay, so it follows the same rule as the present progressive tense with the is, am, and are as your modal verbs. Okay, so am able is the semi-modal part of it, and then to do is the main verb. Okay, and I am able to do long division. It shows my ability. Okay, so far we have looked at the positives, okay? But we can also change them into the negative. So when we are talking about I cannot ride a horse, we're also talking about my ability, but it is a negative ability because I'm not able to do it. So what we have done here is we have added in the negative part of it. And we could have used the contraction. So I could have said, I can't ride a horse. Okay. So some of these you can use the contractions with, but I have used the complete form. Okay. So I cannot ride a horse. It is showing my ability, or actually my lack of ability, because it is a negative. Okay, so when you have the not in it, it is turning it into the negative. So here, you should not. And so that is again a negative. And because I've got should not, so you should not watch television for more than an hour. I'm giving advice. So it's saying what you shouldn't do. So it is advice, but it is also in the negative form. And you could have shouldn't. Okay, so you could have the contraction in there. And then this bit here, the author may not visit our school. We're using it as a possibility rather than permission, because remember, may, it could be permission. It's also the possibility. So because we've said the author may not visit, this is the possibility of them visiting, but it's used as a negative, okay? And with may not, you tend not to use it as a contraction because it just sounds a bit weird when you write it as a contraction, okay? Then the next one here, you should always try your best. So my modal verb, I should, and then always is how often, but try is the main verb within this. Let me just should try, and the always is the adverb in it, so sort of how you should try or when you should try. So this part here, it's giving advice. And then we could go bowling. So could is my modal verb. Go is the main verb. And the bowling is kind of the activity that you are doing. So that would be the noun. And then after dinner, it's your adverbial saying when you could go. And that, because there is a chance that you won't go bowling, again, it is a possibility. And then I think there's very little possibility of this, definitely where I live, but it might not rain tomorrow. So if I've got might as my modal verb, not is turning it negative, and rain is the main verb. So what we've got here is the possibility, but as a negative. Okay, so again, I will save that for you so that you can have a look through and just check that you are happy with your answers. Okay, now I'm just going to stop the recording for a second